Good evening, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this evening, 5 suspected robbers killed, 6 firearms seized in Negril. 5 suspected robbers were killed during an alleged confrontation with members of the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force in Negril Square, Westmoreland on Friday morning. The news understands that between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., the police, acting on intelligence, intercepted multiple vehicles, resulting in a shootout. No officers were injured in the melee, the police said. According to reports, 6 firearms were also recovered following the alleged altercation. The operation continues as the local investigators and the Marine Police search for additional evidence.
Yeah, you want to carry the vehicle in the water over there?
One carry in the water?
Yeah, man, the boat and reverse over there, man, in the water, man. So they want to fire shot in the water.
What is innocent people? Is the ambulance enough?
Woman murdered in Gregory Park in Portmore. A woman was this afternoon gunned down in a section of Gregory Park in Portmore, St. Catherine, called Mexico. The deceased has been identified as 47-year-old Natoya Roden, who was a mother of 8 children. The attack happened around 1:45 p.m. The police are at the scene and investigators are searching for clues. Yesterday, a woman was shot in the area. It is reported that the 39-year-old bartender was at work along Queens Drive in Gregory Park when 2 men posing as customers entered the bar. They reportedly ordered items and asked her about a man. They then brandished guns and fired shots, hitting her on the hands and legs. The hoodlums then fled. 2 men killed in Trelawney crash. 2 men died in a motor vehicle accident in the vicinity of Duncan's bypass in Trelawney on Friday morning. The identities of the deceased have not yet been released by the police. The accident, which occurred sometime after 11 a.m., involved 2 motor cars. The 2 men who died were reportedly in the same vehicle. 2 in police custody after police seized 2 kilograms of cocaine and 12 pounds of ganja in Manchester. The police are reporting that 2 people are now in custody following the seizure of 2 kilograms of cocaine and 12 pounds of ganja during an operation on Hartsfield Road in Mandeville, Manchester on Thursday. Reports are that at about 7 p.m., the police intercepted a grey Toyota Axia motor car with 2 persons aboard. The police said the car was searched and the cocaine weighing approximately 2 kilograms as well as 12 pounds of ganja were discovered in the glove compartment and the trunk of the vehicle. The 2 occupants of the vehicle were subsequently arrested under suspicion of breaches of the Dangerous Drugs Act, the police said. However, their identities are being withheld pending further investigations. Wife killer Omar Collymore gets life to serve at least 46.5 years in prison. Omar Collymore has been sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of his wife, Simone Cabell Collymore, and the taxi operator, Winston Walters. Collymore, who was also sentenced to 1 year and 6 months for conspiracy, must serve 46 years and 6 months before becoming eligible for parole. The sentencing was handed down by Judge Leighton Pusey in the Supreme Court on Friday morning. The sentencing was handed down by Judge Leighton Pusey in the Supreme Court on Friday morning. His co-accused Michael Adams and Dwayne Pink also received life sentences for murder. Adams becomes eligible for parole after 42 years and 6 months while Pink must serve at least 32 years and 6 months before he gains eligibility. Adams and Pink, meanwhile, also received 2 years and 6 months and 1 year and 6 months, respectively, for conspiracy. All sentences are to run concurrently. The third co-accused, Shaquilla Edwards, who was found guilty for conspiracy to murder, has been sentenced to 1 year in prison. ICE nabs a Jamaican national in target enforcement operation. The United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency says it has apprehended a Jamaican national among 18 people during a targeted enforcement operation for individuals who pose a threat to public safety. ICE identified the Jamaican national as a 55-year-old male who was convicted for possession of cocaine and narcotic equipment. The subject is currently pending a removal hearing by an immigration judge, said ICE, disclosing that those arrested by enforcement and removal operations during the enforcement action, which spanned several counties in southeast Florida, were from Guatemala, Mexico, Honduras, China, Jamaica, and Colombia. ERO is focused on smart, effective immigration enforcement that protects citizens throughout Florida by arresting and removing those who undermine our immigration laws and pose a safety threat to our communities, said ERO Miami Field Office Director Garrett Ripper. The ATD program is a privilege, and when non-citizens violate the conditions of their release by breaking other laws, there are consequences. ICE said the criminal histories of those arrested include racketeering, conspiracy, extortion, weapons charges, driving under the influence, cocaine possession, domestic violence, child abuse, hit and run, burglary, criminal mischief, aggravated assault, assault with a weapon, and resisting an officer. ICE said non-citizens placed into removal proceedings receive their legal due process from federal immigration judges in the immigration courts, which are administered by the Justice Department's Executive Office for Immigration Review. Last year, ICE said ERO arrested 73,822 non-citizens with criminal histories, with an average of 4 per individual. St. Catherine Parish Court evacuated amid a security threat. Proceedings at the St. Catherine Parish Court were brought to an abrupt end following a security threat Friday morning. The police and other security personnel were observed ushering persons out of the court building. The threat came about 10:15 a.m. as the court opened for business. Government considers granting legal landing to Haitian asylum seekers. The government is awaiting legal opinion to determine the status of over 50 Haitians who have applied for asylum. National Security Minister Dr. Harris Chang told the news that the government is seeking legal opinion with a view to granting legal landing to the asylum seekers. Dr. Chang said landing would be for a period of 1 year. The Haitians arrived in the island via boat after fleeing instability in their country. Despite the criticisms, the government has been quickly repatriating Haitians who they say have entered Jamaica illegally. Attorney at law and the founder of Freedom Imaginaries, Malene Lane, has said while she welcomes the humanitarian stay option, it does not absolve the government of its responsibility to resolve the humanitarian situation. Ms. Lane said that the Haitians have been languishing for over a year without any clear indication as to their future.
While we welcome a humanitarian stay option, I just want to emphasize that it does not displace the government's obligations under the Refugee Convention to grant refugee status to persons who are eligible. And the Refugee Convention makes it very clear. And we do have a refugee policy. And so while we would welcome any humanitarian option that would alleviate the very difficult situation that they're in right now, we just want to emphasize that we still expect that their asylum claims would be considered. They have been in limbo since July 2023. They don't have papers to work. It's difficult for them to establish themselves, earn a decent living, and support themselves. They're not getting adequate access to medical care because there's no process in place. And so the protocol right now is for them to call me, their attorney at law, and then for me or to ask the police to take them, and the police constantly say there's no vehicle to take them, so they're languishing. I mean, there's no electricity at the camp right now, so they're in darkness. They say they're not getting adequate meals because, there's not enough food. The children are suffering. They haven't been in an education system since they came here in July, which means that for over 1 year, young children have not had access to education. There is a process that is articulated under the 2009 refugee policy, which we will exhaust. And there is also a constitutional claim that's before the court, which I won't discuss in detail except to say that there are serious human rights issues, constitutional rights issues that need to be resolved. And so we will be exhausting those remedies before the court.
Thank you everyone for watching. See you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for another news update.